This podcast is brought to you by Tri-County Speaks, serving survivors of sexual assault in Berkeley, Charleston, and Dorchester counties.
Hi, my name is Lily Allen, and I am a practicum intern at Tri-County Speaks. So today for Self-Care Sundays, we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness, what that looks like, and then some ideas for practicing mindfulness in our everyday lives. So there are a lot of definitions for mindfulness, but the one that I find is the easiest to conceptualize and understand is simply that mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judgment. So that's paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judgment. So a way to really think about that is just being here now. Mindfulness is not based in the past, and it's also not future-oriented. So some ways that mindfulness can really help improve our lives on a daily basis is by decreasing symptoms of depression and also symptoms of anxiety. And when you think about it, that makes sense because mindfulness is present in the moment. When we're in the past and we're thinking about the past, what we could have done, what we should have done, when we are regretting things that happened in the past, when we're judging ourselves, what we should have done, right? That can lead to feelings of sadness and really add to the experience and really add to depression. On the other hand, when we're not in the present moment and we're focused in the future, often that looks like worrying. It looks like worry thoughts. What if this happens? What do I do next week? What am I going to do for this video that I needed to record? All of those things keep us out of the present moment and can add to symptoms of anxiety and depression. So being here and now can be really difficult for humans who have a tendency to get stuck in our minds and worry about the future and dwell really on the past. So how do we do that? How do we practice mindfulness? Well, there are a few things that we can do to practice mindfulness. And the first one that I'm going to go over is the idea of just observing this present moment. So when we're observing the present moment, that can mean different things. It can mean noticing the sensations in our body. It could be noticing the emotions that we're feeling. And again, where we feel those emotions in our body. When you think about feeling fear, oftentimes for me, when I feel fear, my heart starts to race. I get like a sinking feeling in my stomach. Just being able to notice, observe what our bodies feel like when we are experiencing fear. And then the next part of mindfulness is being able to describe that. So just as I did just now, if I'm feeling fear and maybe I notice, a sinking in my stomach, I'll stop and I'll notice, I'll observe what that feels like in my body. And then I'll describe it. So I'll say, oh, that feels like a sinking in my stomach. Maybe there's heat in my chest. Being able to really focus on this present moment and on our body sensations, or even on our thoughts, right? Oftentimes we have lots of thoughts that come up throughout the day, and sometimes they can really take us into a place of worry, or again, back in the past. And so I might have a thought, for example, I need to record this video, right? I gotta do that tomorrow. So if I have that thought, and then that thought, I don't notice it, and that thought just kind of goes to another thought. And maybe it's, oh, well, I don't know what to do for it. Or, oh, I get nervous in front of the camera. Or, oh, all of these things that come up, right? That can increase that feeling of anxiety and make it more difficult for me to actually get the task done that I set out to do. So instead, if I had that thought, ooh, I've got to do that video tomorrow. If I notice it, and I just label it a thought, then I can decide what to do with it. I can say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that tomorrow. And then I can move on and participate in life after that. I don't have to get bogged down and tied down to these thoughts. And similarly with emotions, if I experience fear, for example, if I experience fear and I don't notice it, right? Or maybe I do and I try to avoid it, or I try to make myself busy. Whatever the case may be, those emotions, those sensations in my body are still going to continue. I'm still going to experience them. But they might be more likely to take over, to really make it more difficult again for me to get done what I wanted to get done. So the idea of observing your thoughts and your emotions and those sensations in your body that make up our experience, our human experience in this moment, is a way of practicing mindfulness and of being able to stay present and reduce suffering in our lives. So again, observing and describing. Observing is noticing what's going on around you. It can also be noticing, we can be mindful of an object in front of us, right? So observing this candle, I would just look at it, right? I would look at it, and you often hear people say, look at something with fresh eyes or with beginner's eyes. So being able to stay present and looking at this candle, and maybe if my mind starts to go to the last time that I lit this candle, right? The last time, then my mind might wander off into more thoughts. Instead, if I look at this candle and I observe it for exactly what it is, I can then describe it and stay in the present moment through describing. So I can say, oh, it's kind of frosted. It has like a frosted glass, so you can't see through it. Oh, it feels cold on my hand. Has like a wooden top, but it's smooth. It has lines in the wood. I can then notice how heavy it feels in my hand. So when I'm doing that, I'm able to, again, be mindful and stay in this present moment in order to reduce suffering and to be more effective in everyday life. So another thing to note about mindfulness is that last part of the definition. So we have paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judgment. The without judgment part can be difficult, and it's a really important part of mindfulness. So when we're non-judgmental about something, we are making sure that we are not placing a value on something. We're simply describing something for what it is. Oftentimes when we place judgments on our experience, like for example, with the fear example, I feel fear. Oh no, I feel fear. Oh no, I'm going to start sweating. Oh no, they're going to see that I'm fearful, right? Oh no, why am I fearful? No one else is fearful. Those are all judgments of my experience of fear. And in that moment, it's not likely that that fear is going to go down with me placing judgments on it. However, if I look at my experience of fear from a place of curiosity or just factually, right? If I look at my experience with fear and I say, I feel fear. What's coming up for me right now, right? Mindfulness kind of allows us to be our own therapist in the present moment. It helps us to take a step back, to do things more slowly, to really experience what's going on in the moment without making whatever's going on even less comfortable. So if I'm curious about my fear, I'm then less likely to really feel that fear and have it take over. So those are just some ways that you can practice mindfulness as far as being aware of your surroundings. So you can observe either what's going on around you, the sensations in your body, the emotions, also the thoughts that come up. And this process of slowing down helps us to be able to make sense of what we're thinking and what we're feeling without having to take any of that as fact. So that is also a way that it can decrease anxiety. There's another way that really helps us to practice mindfulness, and this can be helpful for anyone. It can also be helpful for survivors of sexual assault because it's the idea of paced breathing. And any time where we're going to be, breathing in and out and using that as a practice, this is going to be helpful for mindfulness. But the way we breathe can be really helpful, in particular for survivors of sexual assault. So there's one type of breathing called paced breathing. And what this is you're going to be breathing in through your nose for about 5 counts. You're going to hold it for just a second. And then you're going to breathe out through your mouth for about 7 seconds. And when you do that over and over, what happens is the parasympathetic nervous system is able to be activated. So when you think of fear, when you think of any sort of emotions, anger, those sorts of things, when you think of the fight or flight response that can often be activated more readily in survivors of sexual violence, mindfulness can help, and more specifically breathing techniques can help decrease that fight or flight response that survivors often have, and it can be engaged more readily because of that protective factor. Our bodies and our brains want to protect us. And so when our fight or flight, our sympathetic nervous system is engaged and kicks in, that can really be unhelpful and create more problems in the moment. It can lead to more suffering, right? Because we're not able to make decisions based on our best interest and what feels supportive when we're in that fight or flight survival mode. So what paced breathing does is it engages the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system. It decreases the blood pressure in our bodies. It kicks in this relaxation response that can really counter that fight or flight response. And this is particularly, again, helpful for survivors of sexual violence when they need a moment to cope, right? If you're experiencing flashbacks or intrusive thoughts of some kind, that can be really difficult to manage in the moment. And what can help with that is mindfulness, and in particular, breathing, paced breathing. So let's try it together. I'm going to breathe in through my nose, and I'm just going to count on my fingers. And then I'm going to breathe out through my mouth, and I'll count again. So you can practice with me if that feels supportive. I like to, when I'm breathing and really being intentional and mindful of my breath, I like to place my hand on my belly and my other hand over my heart. If that feels supportive to you, if that feels safe to you, then I encourage you to do that. If not, that's totally fine too. Part of mindfulness is being able to pay attention to what feels good to you and your body. So if that doesn't feel good, you can put your hands in your lap. So I guess I can't do this because I need to count. So we're going to breathe in through our nose for 5 counts. So ready? So what that does is when we breathe out for a longer time than we breathe in, we're actually allowing for more freedom of the breath to go through. Oftentimes the urge is to breathe in more air when we can't catch our breath. And actually the opposite is true. The more we breathe out and we push that air out, the deeper we'll have our next in-breath. So I encourage you to use paced breathing as a way to practice mindfulness and a way to help reduce suffering, to feel more relaxed. And again, mindfulness can be really helpful for everyone. It can also be helpful for survivors of sexual violence. So thank you for watching this video clip. Please do come back to Tri-County Speaks and for our other self-care Sundays, where we're going to have some really wonderful advocates talking about some other ways to engage in self-care, mindfulness, and all of those things in a way to honor Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So thank you.